worked with Cat Stevens, obviously, and then Irene Cara, Patti LaBelle. It shows with Britney Spears, 50 Cent, Eminem, Usher, Jay-Z, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest.
Okay, Carl, well, welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about the book.
Uh, well, uh, Basically, what I wanted to do, I didn't want to do a book that's all about the artist, the classic type of book, where, we had a great show in New York and, the audience loved it, blah, blah, blah. What I really wanted to do was introduce some of the people that make the business, like technicians, managers, and a musician, get a cross section. 'Cause I think, most of those guys, they don't get the limelight most of the times, and I think, quite frankly, I think they've got some better stories than the musicians and artists.
What about you? What's your background?
My background, I'm basically started out, we're going way back to the 60s now. I started out with the band called the In-Betweens, and I was hanging around with those for a while. Anyway, cut a long story short, they decided to break up, and the one half became a band called Slade, which most people will know,
Uh-huh.
and the other half were offered a job as a backing group for American vocal bands like the Temptations, the Four Tops, etc., etc. And so they said, "Would you join us?" So I said, "Sure. We can give you £3 a week." So I thought, well, that's fair enough, £3 a week. Anyway, I did that. We did some great tours with them, with the American acts. And then through that, a friend of mine, I made a friend of a chap who was working with a band called The Move. And he recommended me to the Foundations. Most people know them. If you Build Me Up Buttercup is obviously their classic one. And so I got a job with those, and that went, a couple of years. They paid me £20 a week, which I thought that was luxury, you know. Anyway, they split up. I did I did a couple of freelance jobs with Ginger Baker and his Air Force. Ginger was, as most people will probably know, was in the drummer with Cream, and did a tour with that. And then the job with Cat Stevens came up, so I joined him, and it really took off from there.
Tell us a couple of the better known people that you've worked with.
Well, I've worked with Cat Stevens, obviously, and the names I've just mentioned. Let me search the memory banks. Irene Cara, Patti LaBelle, did shows with Britney Spears, 50 Cent, going back, oh gosh, Eminem, Usher, Jay-Z, goodness me, quite a few.
You've met them all. Now I got a list of I've got a list here.
Iron Maiden, Judas Priest.
I got a list of some of the bands here and some of the incidents that happened. So if I read out a couple, will you tell us what happened?
Uh, well, do you want a funny one?
Sure. Have you
Yeah,
got some? Go ahead.
yeah. Well, a very good friend of mine, this guy called Dick Bell. He a lot of people will know him. He's the production manager with Iron Maiden. He was with them for 30 odd years. Anyway, he worked with me. We were together with the Foundations, and one day we were having to go to a gig in Birmingham. And anyway, we're off we set, on the way to Birmingham, driving up the M1, and a car cut us up. Anyway, eventually I overtook this car, and Dick rolled the window down to shout some verbal abuse at him. And then, as he was opening his mouth, his teeth fell out onto the motorway. I said, Carl, you got to stop. I said, I can't. I'm doing 17 mile an hour. Anyway, eventually pulled up on the hard shoulder. And he said, we've got to go back for my teeth. I said, I don't think it's a good idea. I think we'll be flattened by a juggernaut by now. Anyway, he, he, he had to resign himself to the fact. So we got back in the motor, and the sadness was that, of course, he got a date that night in Birmingham. And when we got there and the band found out what had happened, they kept making him smile. So needless to say, he didn't show up for his date.
I think it would be more fun if he had. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Listen, I got a list of some of the things which I think must be in the book. So if I read out a couple of these, maybe you could tell us what happened. I'm tempted not to, but throwing John Lennon out of a party.
Oh, everybody asked me that one. Yeah. It's a bit of a myth, actually. What happened was, it was at Cat Stevens. I was with Cat Stevens at the time. We'd finished a tour, and he decided, let's have an end of tour party. So would you organise it? I said, sure, no problem. So I organised this place in New York, which is very famous for musicians. It's a musicians' hangout, and a place called JP's. And so we did the party. Anyway, halfway through the night, everybody's, I would say, very merry and happy. And someone came up to me, and the faces are all a blur, and said John Lennon wanted, like to come in. So I said, sure, no problem at all. Yeah, fine. Anyway, just a few minutes later, I'm still at the bar, as you do. And this chap came up to me, and I didn't recognize the guy at all, because I recognized John Lennon from the long hair and the granny spectacles, the classic look.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy came in with very short hair. He said, it's all right if I come in? I said, no. So then someone turned around, you're just throwing John Lennon out. And of course, he just had his hair cut, and he wasn't with Yoko Ono. So I didn't put the two together, So anyway, that's the story.
Losing £75,000 of Led Zeppelin's money.
Yeah, that's another one, isn't it? That's another one from my friend Jock. He apparently what happened was that they'd done the show the night before, collected the cash, obviously. But in those days, you did. I know it sounds bizarre now, but everything's transferred, and it's all electronic and blah blah blah. But in those days, it was normal to collect cash on the night. It was on the contract, cash on the night. And anyway, they collected the cash, got back to the hotel, put it in the safe, locked it up, no problem. Come down next morning, and it had vanished. Just gone.
Do we know what happened to it?
No one knows what happened to it. There's a combination went astray somewhere, obviously.
Yeah, well, sacked by the Sex Pistols. Was that you or someone else?
No, that was another friend of mine. He's his name's Sam Card, and he really is a card. But he's one of those, I think, that the listener should probably pick up in the book. It probably comes funnier from him than me.
All right, one more. Getting stuck in a lift with Steve McQueen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was classic. Cat Stevens again, on tour in LA, staying at this very, very nice hotel where all the movie stars go. Because his manager was a manager. He didn't manage. He was the only musician he had on his books. He used to manage film stars and actors and things. Anyway, I got back from doing a meeting somewhere, dashed into the hotel because I was running late. The lift was just closing, and I managed to squeeze in. There was only this one chap inside. Then off we went. Got to around the 10th floor, and it stuck between, the floors. I used a British expression, and the guy turned around and said, "Oh, are you English?" And of course, I looked at him, and I thought, "Oh, blimey!" To myself, it's Steve McQueen. Anyway, we obviously got chatting, while we were waiting to get rescued, and. He said, "What are you doing here?" and all of this. And I said, "I'm with Cat Stevens." He said, "Oh, I really like his music." So I said, "Would you like to come to the show?" He said, "Sure." So I always carried some. It was mandatory that I always carry backstage passes with me, just in case. So I gave him a pair, and anyway, that was great. And they lived home. We said cheers, blah blah blah, and thanks a lot. And I eventually got back downstairs, and I thought to myself, well, that's ironic because his one of his great movies was The Great Escape, and he didn't get out the lift.
Actually, one more, one more story, if you would.
Oh gosh, okay.
Last one.
I'm giving
Stealing,
all my secrets away.
stealing Cat Stevens' Rolls Royce.
Oh, that was enough. It's all very Spinal Tap. Most of the rock and roll stories are. They're all farcical and nonsense. You can't help
Of
it
course,
being in
they.
a rock band or a musical band, whatever. But anyway, we were touring again, a world tour. We left Japan, flew into San Francisco. So before we left, Steve, as we used to call him, said, I think I'll have a white Rolls Royce to pick me up at the airport. So I said, fine, I'll organise one. Anyway, I organised this white Rolls Royce. We arrived at San Francisco. I'm messing about, put him in his car, waiting, messing about with the other band, the members of the band, blah, blah, blah. And I walked back to the car and he's talking to this strange chap. And he's just gabbling away there, not anything more of it. So anyway, I got in and this guy got in. So we, drove off, got to the hotel, checked everybody in, no problem. I said to Steve, I said, look, I'm going to pop down to the venue because there's a few things I need to sort out down there. Fine, okay. I'll leave the car outside. Great. Anyway, got to the venue. Bit later, phone rings. Paging Carl Miller. Got on the phone. It's Cat Stevens. Carl, where's my car? I said, I haven't got your car. You've got your car. It was one of those. And anyway, I said, he's obviously not there. I don't know what's happened to it. So I said, I'll arrange another limousine. Got another limousine. He comes back to the venue. No problem. We'll start sound checking. It turned out that the guy he'd given a lift to, who he didn't have a know from Adam who he was. Turned out that the guy had gone to the driver of the car and said, Mr. Stevens has told me to take me anywhere I want. So the guy had gone off. Guy had gone off with a car driving all around the San Francisco hills somewhere. And we never found it again. It's got lost.
Just to wrap up with, what does the future hold for you now? Where
For
will
me,
you be?
I'm retired now.
Yeah, but even
Retired.
so,
I still stay in touch with a lot of the guys. And of course, sadly, a couple of the original Cat Stevens band passed away last year, that sort of thing. So, and of course, Ozzy last week. So yeah, we're withering on the vine, as they say.
so what was Cat Stevens like?
Uh, it, he was good. I mean, the thing I can say about Cat Stevens, he was absolute perfectionist. He everything had to be just so. His sound checks were notorious, especially with any of the musicians he worked with. And his sound checks could take anything up to 3 or 4 hours during an afternoon. They'd take you right up to the doors opening. Um, it was the same in the studios as well. I mean, he would go over and over and over again. I mean, it would be nothing to do a 10, 12-hour day in a studio. Absolute perfectionist. Um, could be very awkward at times. We had our run-ins, but we always got over them. And yeah, I mean, I spent time with him. I spent an awful lot of time with him off the road as well. I used to accompany him to when he had to do, press receptions and publicity and all the rest of it as well. And we enjoyed a game of backgammon together. We used to go horse riding together. things like that.
Uh-huh.
It was. I have to say, the Cat Stevens, original Cat Stevens band was an absolute marvelous to work with. They were fantastic people. Really, really good. We got a great team. Really excellent.
Now you hung around with some of the guys from Judas Priest. What was that like?
Oh, hilarious. They were absolutely hilarious. Just amazing. I mean, they always get themselves into trouble, but uh, and they're all different actually. I mean, because they're all local. We're all from the same area. In fact, the bass player Ian lives. We're neighbours. Um, but they were amazing fun. I remember one time with Judas Priest. Um, we were we used to drive an awful lot, and one day we were driving along, and Ken, the guitarist, it was pouring down the rain, and Ken doesn't like water. But anyway, yeah, we were driving along, and Ken said, "I've got to get out. I've got to get out. Take a pee or something." Anyway, so we stopped. He opened the door and fell into this puddle about 4 foot deep, so, on the side of the road. Things like that used to happen to them all the time. It was very farcical with that band.